Hello and welcome to FTTR, I am Ewan McQuaid, and today I want to talk about some horror. I want to talk about some good supernatural goodness. Good supernatural goodness? Huh? Sorry, everywhere's a bit of a mess behind. It's just, I'm in the middle of moving stuff around, but I really wanted to make this video. Why do I want to talk about the supernatural in regards to wrestling? Well, one, I have been listening to The Silver Screen by Ice Nine Kills pretty much on repeat. If you haven't listened to that album, check it out. But my last video about The Fiend really got me thinking about this one particular question. Does the supernatural have a place in professional wrestling? Now, the obvious answer is yes, because one of the biggest stars of the industry was The Undertaker, who is a primarily supernatural character. I mean, you can look at the American Badass stuff and think maybe he was going for something a bit more down to earth, but really, he was a dead man who had risen from the grave to fight for world championships. That's a bit wacky, that's a bit zany. And now you look at other promotions, you look at Abaddon, who's the living dead girl. She's like a zombie who sort of also wants titles. And you know, you've got Kane, you've got, not really supernatural, but you've got Dexter Lumis down in NXT, who's genuinely a serial killer. Sorry, my chair keeps squeaking, I'm going to have to get a new one, I'm so sorry. Where was I? Dexter Lumis. Now, Dexter Lumis is one of the prime examples for me of a character not quite working. His gimmick doesn't particularly fit with what NXT is. But NXT is a very, very strange product. On the one hand, you've got Dexter Lumis, who is this almost weird, goofy serial killer who gets to host shows like he hosted New Year's Evil. And on the other hand, you've got Xia Li, and her really cool sort of zombie-ish emperor in one of the best entrances that NXT's put on in a long time since Karrion Kross. So they sort of blend the supernatural in a way that doesn't particularly fit, but still does. It's a very strange product, NXT. Yeah, does it fit? I think the big issue with supernatural is when they take it too far. We've seen that with The Fiend, and I'm not going to talk about this again, but the black liquid, the sort of, you know, just stuff with the Fiend, everything that has happened, him being burned alive, him possessing Randy Orton, Alexa Bliss sort of teleporting in and out of the ring, that stuff's all wacky, and it takes away from the reality that has been built up in wrestling. And I'll say the same about AEW. The Matt Hardy stuff at the beginning, that was trash. That was god awful. You know, the teleportation projected around the ring is probably one of the hokiest things I've ever seen in wrestling. But the supernatural does have a place in professional wrestling, I believe. It's special attraction stuff. The Undertaker became this phenom who was a special attraction, but that's because they built up the stuff around him. They built up the streak, they built up his work rate, because the matches, sort of the Shawn Michaels matches, the Triple H matches, up to the CM Punk matches, were all incredible. They were a really good WrestleMania spectacle, and even the matches he was having in between, you know, they turned out okay as well. So really, I think it's the stuff around the character, not necessarily them being supernatural, that is the selling point. You know, The Fiend, when he debuted, wasn't necessarily a supernatural character. Yes, he came out with a severed head as a lantern, but you could just sort of make the argument that this is just Bray Wyatt who has snapped. You know, and Bray Wyatt before sort of NXT Bray Wyatt was a cult leader, and then he became Radagast the Brown. So really it's the transition. They start off these characters in a way that is really cool and really sort of grounded in reality. It's the turn to the hokiness, particularly on the main roster, that sort of ruins them and grounds them. Not grounds them, lifts them up, my bad, into this fantasy world which just, it doesn't fit with the rest of the show. So for example, the Bobby Lashley stuff at the moment, which is probably the best thing about Raw, does not fit at all with Randy Orton throwing up black liquid. It just seems like it's two different worlds colliding. And that is what I think the issue with Supernatural is in wrestling, is that a lot of the time it doesn't really fit. But it can be done well, you know. I think the way it works best, personally for me, is when you can make the argument that it is grounded in reality. So an example of that for me is watching some of Danhausen's stuff, who you could just make the argument, yeah, he's lost his mind. Same with cult leader Bray Wyatt, and same to an extent with people like the Dark Order. Even Abaddon, you can make that argument that she snapped. She's not an actual living dead girl. That is where I sort of sit on the topic of supernatural professional wrestling stuff. I'm just in a horror mood at the moment. I kind of want to watch Halloween. Like, Dexter Lumis is very similar to Michael Myers, but it just doesn't work. He's just so goofy. I mean, he's based off Dexter, but yeah, I'm getting hung up on Dexter Lumis. Supernatural in wrestling. I think it's good when used correctly. Like a lot of things in professional wrestling, use it too much, take it overboard, and it just becomes dumb. So yeah, those are my wise words, I guess, on this topic. Does anyone else have any thoughts on supernatural characters? And would you want to see more? Would you want to see like a spooky league? I know a lot of stuff was done in Lucha Underground, which was like that. But I really want to watch Lucha Underground, but I can't get it in the UK. And it's really frustrating. But yeah, a lot of that stuff was very supernatural, and that has me very intrigued to see it in that sort of style. But yes, let me know what you think about this topic. What do you think about supernatural isms in wrestling? And yeah, thank you all ever so much. Thank you for watching this weird ramble. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you all ever so much, and have a nice day.